Hey everybody, John Hembling here, John the Other, obviously. And based on the last couple of videos that I've done and based on current events, you might think that what I'm going to talk about today is, my coming on here to complain about race hustling and extortion and racketeering being perpetrated by Black Lives Matter, and, shaking down members of the public and looting and burning buildings and intimidating, threatening and enacting violence on citizens. But of course, I would never say anything like that because Black Lives Matter is a purely peaceful and peace-loving organization. When you walk down one of the streets of your city and you see storefronts with the Black Lives Matter posters in the window, that's because a Black Lives Matter canvasser who cares only and singularly about the welfare of young black men who might have been mistreated or killed by their police department will have gone into that store and said, I want to put these Black Lives Matter posters up in your window, and as a business owner, I'm sure you support protecting young black men from violence by the police. And in many cases, a business owner will say, yes, indeed, I don't want to see people get mistreated or killed by the police, and I will certainly put these posters up and I'll donate some money to your organization as well. But business owners might say, I see that the Black Lives Matter is shaking people down and they're burning private businesses and they're attacking people and they're enacting violence and calling for murder, and it's a whole bunch of stuff I don't want to have any part of, and no, you can't put your sign in my window. And then the Black Lives Matter canvasser trying to get these posters put in the window will say, well, no, you misunderstand. Black Lives Matter is a purely non-violent, purely caring and outreach-based organization, and we would never either break your window and raid your, loot your store or burn it down or allow that to happen for anybody who had these posters in the window and who had donated to us. But I'm not going to come out and call Black Lives Matter racketeers or extortionists wrapping themselves in the disguise of caring for young black men, or point to the fact that they didn't care at all and still don't about the hundreds and hundreds of black men who murder each other in American cities every year, and it only seems to matter when it's the police who do it. So I wouldn't ever point that out because that would be cynical and not supporting of young black men. Because if I don't support a violent, criminal, predatory shakedown mafia, then clearly I'm just a racist white supremacist who wants young black men to die. So that's not the video that I'm doing today. I know I went on and on. I just wanted to make it really clear that I would never condemn an organization for shaking down businesses or threatening people or calling for mass murder or enacting violence or killing people or burning people out of their homes. I would never say anything about any of that because that would be bad and I would be a bad person if I did. No, I completely support them. What I do want to talk about, though, today is there seems to be a trend developing very rapidly, like just springing up overnight, of our culture of people turning into snitches. And what I mean is people who don't want to support violent street criminality or organizations that practice and promote violent street criminality are being unpersoned and expelled from their families, from their friends' networks, from their employment, from their careers, and they're being expelled with this imaginary pretend that because they don't want to support or pledge allegiance to a violent criminal mafia, as completely unrelated to Black Lives Matter, by the way, because they're clearly not a violent criminal mafia shaking down businesses. I'm just talking about something different now. But in our society, people who are unwilling to support a violent criminal mafia engaging in racketeering and pretending to care for young black men, we seem to have a lot of kind of white liberal caring types completely turning their backs on their friends and families and pretending that this refusal to support violent criminality and predatory criminal racketeering is in fact a statement of, I hate young black men and I want them to be killed by the cops. And it's a very bizarre kind of pretend that you're going to take someone who you know very well, or who is a member of your family, or if you've worked with for years and you know that they're not a horrible person, and then because they don't want to support a violent criminal predatory shakedown organization engaging in racketeering and burning businesses and enacting violence and calling for mass murder, you're going to pretend that instead of being a person of integrity who doesn't like violence, that they're in fact a violent, horrendous, racist, I guess, pseudo-Klansman who wants young black men to be murdered. Now, if we believed that the people not willing to support a violent, predatory criminal organization engaging in racketeering and wrapping themselves in the artificial disguise of caring for young black men, if we're going to pretend, let's just start from the idea that people with a sense of integrity who reject criminal organized violence, we pretend that they actually are hateful bigots who want young black men to be killed. The correct response to that hatred, which is actually, we're pretending that's there, the correct response is not to expel that person from their life. It would be to embrace them and talk to them and understand them and help them move away from that hate. But instead, we see this phenomenon of, expelling these people from their lives, turning your back on them, unpersoning them, denying them employment, denying them their career, denying them access to their friends and family, which seems to me that if you actually believed they were violent, hateful, supporting of young black men being killed, that would harden them in their hatred rather than walk them away from it. So it's a particularly strange thing to do when you're doing it as a performative thing to show that you're virtuous, because if you actually believed that they were hateful and supporting of young black men being killed, you'd be hardening them. You'd be making more people believe that horrible hatred that actually isn't even real. So it's strange. And also the cruelty of turning your back on someone is also being performed as if it's virtuous. And I think it's time that we begin to recognize publicly and loudly that turning your back on someone and expelling them is both cowardly and extraordinarily cruel, and should not in any circumstance be treated as if it's an act demonstrating virtue, when it in fact demonstrates cowardice and cruelty. I hope I haven't been too wordy and repetitive in this video. But anyway, thanks very much for listening, and as always, have a lovely, lovely day.